All right. For those of you that are new to our community, my name is Dawn, and I am the founder of Practical Spiritualism. I'm also the founder of the Field and Form, so the 12 Laws of Co-Creation, as well as the founder of the Aligned Human Project, which is really, we've just recently, last week, I shifted the name of our circle from the Awakening Circle to the Aligned Human Circle. Partially to keep it all really cohesive of what we talk about, and also allowing us to, for some people, it's like, what is awakening? What is consciousness? And then for some of us, it's more like, alignment feels more accessible. It might feel like it's a language that is more comfortable for some of us. So I don't want us to think that it needs to be one word or another word. They're all kind of a pathway into coming into an alignment. And when we come back into our alignment, we get to have greater access into our intuition. We have greater access into connection and compassion. And so alignment is really what the project, everything I do is really all about, is helping people, cultivate that alignment, not only within ourselves, but the ripple effect. So when we have alignment here, even if it's not 100%, but we're just more in alignment, then we create greater alignment within our homes. We create greater alignment within our work, within our communities. And so this is what we want to be spreading about. So rather than fear and anger, how can we spread alignment? How can we spread compassion? So those are the challenges of the Aligned Human Project. So today, what I want to talk to us about is why emotions, like I said originally anxiety, but what I really want to talk about is like why emotions are actually, well, they're alerts for us. So if we can think they're actually trying to tell us something. And so, it's not that an emotion is bad, and so we don't have good and bad emotions. Emotions are neutral. Energy is neutral. Energy in motion, emotion. And energy itself is neutral. It's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's just an experience. Suffering comes when we attach to those emotions, or we resist them, or we don't acknowledge them at all. And so then in that process, we aren't listening to the warning system, the warning bells, I guess, really, that are coming out from our neurosystem. And then we're also not paying attention to what am I resisting, what am I clinging on to. And they're really important. We need to understand ourselves. You are the human you are given to take care of. You're the only human you were given to take care of. And sometimes for those of us that are moms, that can be really hard to hear. But your children, our jobs is teaching our children how to take care of themselves, not in the neglect of those around them, but actually to truly take care of ourselves. There is a compassion, a love, a community that we're taking care of as well within our family. But we are our only project. And it is our job to love ourselves. And then from there, that cup gets really full and we can expand it. So now in today's society, you can see where we've got an incongruency because we're being taught to hustle. We're being taught, that there's competition. We're being taught that there's only so much. And we're also right now really being bombarded with information of us versus them. And the problem with this is at our highest vibrational frequency is unity consciousness or bliss consciousness. And it's not fragmentation. It's about us coming back together. There was a comment that came, through Greg Braden, through interviewing some Buddhist monks. And the question he was asking is, what is the force that holds the universe together? And the answer that started coming back to him was compassion. And compassion is not only an emotion or something we can feel. Compassion is actually a force. It's a force of energy, and it's the glue that holds the universe together. And so the more that we are being, prodded to separate from each other, the more anxiety we have, the more insecurity we have, the more depression we have. We are at an all-time high of drugs specifically for anxiety and depression, like none other before. The numbers are astronomical. And so we need to understand, like, but why is it happening? And all that's great. We can use Western medicine and that I'm not saying that any of it's bad, but we do need to get to the point of like, but why is it there? And how can I start, healing this divide within myself that is actually causing this experience? And it's not that it's our fault. This has been going on for thousands of years, generation after generation. It's our job to recognize that it doesn't have to be this way. And so we can use the tools that are around us, like life preservers. We want to get out of the water. We don't want to drown. So we want to get out of the water. But then we also want to start gaining the tools and the techniques to start supporting ourselves. And so what does that look like? And so the thing I want us to start with, though, is that these emotions that we have, they are information. They're opportunities. It's a very different way to look at them. And our language is super, super important. Because if the language that we have is that, I am an emotion, I am angry, I am anxious, or I have anxiety, I have depression, they're not in your pocket. And it might trigger you while I say that. And if it triggers you, note it down. Because anything that triggers us is a way that we can be manipulated. It's a place that we're giving our power away. So note it down so that that's something that you can brain dump on and come into. Because we don't want to identify with our emotions, with our experiences. They are things that we are experiencing, but you are a divine being having a human experience. So if we think of it from that point of view, then we're just witnessing this experience. And can I have an experience of panic? Can I have an experience of anxiety? Can I have an experience of rage? And just allow myself to experience it without being involved in its drama. And so if we can think of it from that point of view, it starts to create a little bit of separation from us. And so we're no longer a victim to our emotions. Now we're starting to shift. Oh, good. The comments are working. Hello. I was like trying to figure out what was going on behind me, and I just realized that my coat was sitting there. So this is like the feelings or the experiences that we want to be able to have. So in this, the emotions that we experience are signals. Even things like grief. When we're having these emotions, if we simply look at them as like, oh, here's an opportunity for me to see where I'm still attached to someone or that I'm missing someone. It's just grief. We just don't want to sit in it. And so can I allow this emotion and make friends with it? And I'll get to that in a little bit of like, how do we really make friends with our emotions, which does not mean sit and have tea. It means that, like any other conversation, you would really listen, but with your whole being. And so we really get to know them so that our emotions feel seen and heard, and then they can release. Because our emotions, just like us, when we feel seen and heard, we can let things go. And so the same thing happens within our body, within our mind, within our nervous system. If we are constantly dissociating, if we're constantly pushing these things away and we're not looking, we're not seeing, we're not experiencing, then they're going to stay. So it's like what we resist persists. And that's what that saying really means. So in this dysregulated world that we're living in right now, because it is dysregulated. It's dysregulated when we look at it from the lens of politics. It's dysregulated when we look at it through the lens of systems, medical systems, education systems, and a lot of the things that we have depended on to make us feel safe and secure. They are, I wouldn't say they're crumbling, but they're shifting. And there may be some systems that do need to break down to the ground so that we can rebuild them more in a healthy and complete way. So, but because of this, because we have this chaos around us, or what feels like chaos, because it's shifting, understand that our subconscious mind loves to understand and know what's happening, which is why we repeat even dysfunctional relationships. So the subconscious mind is made up of all of our past experiences. And the subconscious mind only knows what we've experienced already. It doesn't know anything of the opportunities of the future. which is why we will repeat relationships or qualities of relation. Why do I always date the same kind of people? Why do I always end up working for the same kind of bosses? And we don't realize that part of that is because our nervous system, our subconscious mind recognizes it. And even though it's dysfunctional, there's a level of safety in it because it knows how to plan for that. It already knows that. Which is why when we come out of, dysfunctional upbringings or dysfunctional relationships, it can be difficult to get into an actually healthy relationship afterwards because it's an unknown. Is this safe? Is it safe when somebody actually treats me with kindness, or is there like when's the other shoe going to drop? And so our nervous system, our mind, our emotions, they tell us a lot of information about what's happening inside of us. Once we recognize like, oh, that's coming up because I have a wound around this, and my job is to release the wound. That's what the whole healing journey is. The entire healing journey that each of us needs to go through is actually a journey of unlearning and letting go. That's it. We don't need answers. We don't need reasons. We don't need anything else. We just need to look at things and say, does this resonate with who I want to be? Does this bring me closer to love, to compassion? If it doesn't, get rid of it. And we think it takes like this big, long experience to release a belief system or to release a wound. It doesn't. It just takes a choice. It takes a moment where you just sit and finally get sick and tired of bringing it in your backpack everywhere you go. And then we have to get to this place where we're like, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm putting it down. And it seems hard because there's a belief that our wounds protect us from things happening again. And the opposite is true. So it's that wounds of polarity that we start getting pulled into. So when we take a look at this, I want you to remember that our emotions, for one, are not our identity. Our emotions are not our identity. And a lot of us identify with our emotions and our experiences. I certainly have. And even to this day, I have to be really, really conscious, aware, so that I don't get into that old habit. I don't have or didn't have a brain injury. I experienced a brain that was injured. Very different language, and so getting it out of the identity or the language of identifying. So it's, again, the very opposite of what often we're being told. How do you identify? You're asked that question on a regular basis now. And I'm sitting here telling you to let go of identities. So we can have them, here I'm playing a role as opposed to a full out identity. So if we can experience like, oh, right now I'm playing the role of a coach, of a was calling the label that we were using is the archetype or the architect of human alignment. But, now I'm playing the role of quantum coach. Now I'm playing the role of teacher. Now I'm playing the role of business owner. I'm now stepping into the role of wife. I'm stepping into the role of mom. But they're different. And so now when something shifts, because things are always shifting and changing, our children are always growing, then we don't end up with an identity crisis. Because identity crises begin first with identifying as something. And so when we don't have that identity to begin with, we simply can experience it and say, oh, this is my experience right now. Right now, I'm having the experience of a mom whose children are 24 and 30. Like that's just my experience right now. And it's always changing. It's always shifting. Then I don't have to be scared of losing something. And so we start releasing that. So the first thing that we want to recognize is emotions do not equal our identity. This is also important because when we have been told or praised for certain things, oh, she's such a, always calm, always loving, she never gets angry. It's so wonderful. And then all of a sudden rage comes up at some point. You're like, oh, I'm not allowed to have this because it's a contradiction to my identity. I'm a nice person. And so now we have a problem, and the problem becomes a war inside of ourselves. It's actually not out in the world. It's inside. And so because we're not just allowing ourselves to experience the moments, we've got identities now. The other piece is emotions are data. They are information from the field of what's going on around us. So how can I let this support me? How can I be part of that? The dog wants to go out, and I'm just going to ignore him as we keep going. So what you're feeling isn't proof that something is wrong with you. It's proof that you're sensitive to what's happening. So if there's a sense of anxiety in the world right now, and we take a look, it's proof that we have a divide, because that's where anxiety comes from. Anxiety is a warning signal that something is in divide. We feel separated from something. And so often it's from the present moment, and our soul can only live in the present moment. And so if I'm not present here in my body, if I'm not present in this conversation with you guys right now, I'm, somewhere else, I'm worrying about what's coming up tomorrow or something that happened yesterday, and I'm not present, I'm going to start feeling this dichotomy within my own body. And I'm going to experience it as an unsettled feeling, because I'm not stable. I'm not here in the moment. I've got 1 foot here and 1 foot in the past, or 1 foot here and 1 foot in the future, or 1 foot here and 1 foot at the office. And so that separation is what creates these experiences that we have that we label anxiety, anxiousness, overwhelm, separation, worry. We all have different words for them. It took me a long time, because I was like, oh, I just feel like, just unsettled, like there's just something that's there, but I would never label them as worry or panic. So when the doctors were like, oh, you're having an anxiety attack, you're having a panic attack, I was like, I don't get it. And having to learn how to make friends with them. And so learning, like, when we're having these experiences, how can we watch them? How can we witness them to get the information? Because our job is to extrapolate the wisdom from our experiences and then release the rest. We're not meant to hold on to all of it. It's not healthy for us. So we're just meant to extrapolate the wisdom. Oh, that's interesting. And we pull that and we let the rest of it go. And then we can hold that wisdom there and have it prepared for us for at any time. We'll be able to pull it out and use it in current moments. We don't have to hold on to the whole wound. We don't have to hold on to the whole past experience. We can let those things go. So our piece here is why fighting anxiety or other emotions actually makes it worse. So as I said, when we resist, it persists. So when we resist anxiety, the nervous system starts to hear danger. It's like she's not paying attention. She's not listening to me. And so that's a dangerous moment, because she's not present. She's not here. And if you think of it like your experience, this is your home. And your home is meant to be run by you, the conscious awareness. You're supposed to be directing and guiding each moment of the day. By being present, we can make proper choices. And if we're not present, then our bodies, our homes are being run by mind. And our mind and our ego, so if you think of subconscious as your ego, your identity, it's often runs the gamut of age between 3 and 15. And so it's a dysfunctional home. And that's the experience most of us have physically, is of dysfunction. But the dysfunction is not because something's wrong with us. It's because we haven't gotten really present again. And so when we resist anxiety, when we ignore it, when we try to stuff it away, when we try to cope or numb from it, all of those things actually create greater dysregulation within the nervous system. So in control, so I put control, suppression, and self-judgment all actually increase the threat. Say that again. Control, suppression, and self-judgment all increase the threat. I say this because control is often something we try to use for a coping mechanism. And then it persists, and this is how we end up identifying with something, is because we're trying to control the world around us, and we're not capable of doing that. It's not how we are designed to be. It's not how the world's designed to be. We are an energetic being interacting with other energies, with other energetic beings. And in that, we're having these very unique creations coming about. We're co-creating with each other, with the universe itself. And so we can't control these things. They're far outside our control. And so the control itself, again, cultivates separation within us. And so I said most coping strategies fail because they try to fix from the form, so from the physical, and they ignore the field. And so we can't fix these issues from a physical standpoint. That's why if we do use medications, if we don't go back to, what are the emotions I have? And my emotions come from thoughts. My thoughts come from beliefs. And it's my job to start questioning my beliefs. Does this belief align with who I choose to be? Or is it one that I just took on without paying attention? And so once we recognize where these things come from, we can start changing and making different choices. We can start being really present with ourselves. And so it is really, really important that we understand, where do my emotions come from? Where do thoughts come from? Where do beliefs come from? And is this a belief that I actually align with? Or am I ready to hand it back? Am I ready to put it down? Because I do not need to take it forward. And just because somebody also had that belief, they maybe never questioned it. And so we don't need to blame them for giving us the same belief. They offered us Kool-Aid and we drank it. And they too drank the same juice. So getting mad at them is unhelpful. It doesn't solve anything. It just increases that sense of separation. All we have to do is put it down. Just let it go. That's their experience that they had. It doesn't have to be yours. Nothing big has to change or shift. You can just let it go. So understanding these coping strategies that we're trying to fix something physically isn't going to work. So they'll help going out into nature, going for nature walks, exercise, eating healthy connections with other people, yoga, meditation. Yoga and meditation both have physical components to them. They have a different coping style because they're also on an energetic. And so knowing that there's different qualities of what we're doing that will help us go further with things. So that's why when people say to me, I run all the time and it really helps my anxiety. Well, first in that sentence, there was my anxiety. So we already have an identity. And if it still is persisting, then running away from it's not actually working. It helps to move that energy through your body. It's great in the moment, but at some point we need to look at it from the field. What is the anxiety actually coming from? It's coming from being out of alignment. I'm not present. I'm not in alignment with my soul, with myself, with my values. And so getting present, getting quiet is what will help us come back into alignment. And then we can go, okay, what is the thoughts that I'm having? Those thoughts are coming from a belief. What is the belief that I have? Once I nail down that belief, I can start shifting it. I don't choose this belief. Well, what do you choose to believe? And so then we can start recreating ourselves as we choose to be, as opposed to just the outcome of the past experiences. And we don't have to be that. We can be exactly what we choose. So the piece here, so anxiety intensifies when presence collapses. Not only anxiety, but anger, resentment, fear. They all will intensify if we are not present, if we collapse on ourselves. And regulation restores choice. So the more present that we are, we use the breath, we come back into center, we ground into this moment, and then we can start to create regulation. And when we're present, now I can start hearing all of the options. I can start seeing all of the opportunities. I'm not focusing narrowly on the problem anymore. And presence also interrupts the loop. So the mind's looping away, and you start asking questions. Wait a minute, what's this going on here? And maybe you've experienced this where you start asking questions of the loops and patterns in the mind. Where is this coming from? And all of a sudden it goes silent. It's like, oh, you're looking at me. I don't want you to see me. I want you to realize that this is happening. We are not crazy. It's just a neurotic inner roommate. We have different aspects of ourself that we experience. Our humanness, our inner child, our inner critic, our inner control freak. We all have these different aspects. And so once we recognize where this is coming from and we see it and we witness it, then we can start to heal it. We can start to release the tension around it. Anxiety doesn't need to be conquered. It just needs to be met. And so when I talk about presence, so presence is the antidote. So law 3 was the law in in Align Your Life that I taught on Sunday. And so in this law, the law of presence equals power. It's where all your power lies. And so when we can get really present with each other, we also have access to greater amounts of compassion. And so it's power is not actually about control. That's the illusion. Control actually becomes a weak point because it creates rigidity, and rigidity can crack. It can break. When we are present, there's a bend, a lean, a sway as we move with the rhythms of life. And so instead of this rigidness that cracks and breaks, all of a sudden now we have this embedded ability to bend, to move, to be part of creation as opposed to fighting it, resisting it. Power is not certainty. I remember I was listening to Pema Chodron, a book by her fairly early on when I got hurt with a brain injury. I was listening to quite a bit of her, just trying to find some understanding, some peace within myself. And she'd made a comment that one of the greatest lies we've ever been told is that there is ground. And at the time I was like, what? And her point is we all feel grounded and safe when everything is exactly as we are prepared for it to be. And as soon as something shifts and changes, we have uncertainty and we have chaos. There's fear. There's this sense of instability. When we have an expectation instead that life is always shifting and changing, much like sand, we don't have this expectation of solid ground. We understand that it's shifting and changing. It's not dangerous. It's not bad. It's just sand. And so we just want to be able to move with that and understand how life works. It's always going to shift and change. And security actually comes from in here and trusting that we're going to stay present and trusting that we can shift as the sand shifts, as opposed to being out there, which would require everything to remain the same. Or if it's going to change, it only changes at the speed in which I'm comfortable with and in the direction that I want it to. And that can be really difficult because what you actually want, the path to get there may not look the way you want it to look. And so that is one of the importance of understanding this shifting of the ground. And so the pieces here, so presence brings awareness, only presence. And so getting really quiet, getting really centered and starting to sense into our body, tell me what my yes is. Tell me what my no is. So on December 31st, I had recorded a meditation that is a heart coherence breath. I did it on YouTube and on the podcast, the Aligned Human Project podcast. You can go to either spots to listen to it. If you do that heart coherence practice, and then at the end of it, get really quiet and ask your heart, what is my yes? What does my yes feel like in my body? And your body will give you the sensations and let you know what a yes is. We just thank it. And then we ask, what is my no? Show me what my no is when something is not in alignment, not right for me. And your heart will let you know what that experience is. And so from there, you can start asking your heart questions, because our mistake is we ask our head, and the head is based off of the past. So we're sitting here coming up into intellect, and intellect's all great and has its points, but it's not actually the strongest system. And so when we go back into the heart's where our intuition connects into. So can I check in and get the quiet yes or no versus the screaming, neurotic, looping patterns of the mind? Awareness restores choice. So we want these choices. We've got to get into the stillness. We've got to get into the quiet. And that quiet, all of this can be going on, all the lights, all the noise, but we are the still point, like the eye of the storm. Life still spins, and we just get really, really quiet for a moment so that we can get the answers we're looking for. And power, a power is the ability to stay present with what is. And so, why do we train the mind? Why do we go through these practices? It's so that we can stay present, stay in that stillness, no matter what that chaos is that's going all around us. So the moment that you're present with anxiety or with any emotion, instead of fighting it, your power begins to return. So the practice of this. So I've got kind of two embodied mini practices, but I want to go first into making friends with with an emotion. And so I can try and write these down for you guys in the comments as well, or you can make a note of them for yourself. So the questions that we want to ask. So say I have an experience of an emotion in my body, a sensation that is uncomfortable. If you can, take the moment to close your eyes, and I want you to go into that part of your body. So just I want, instead of running away from it, I want you to go into it. So if it's in your upper abdomen, then can we close our eyes and just get really quiet for a moment and start to slow the breath down and breathe into the upper abdomen. And I don't want you, the mind's going to want to chatter. This is why I feel this way. And I just want you to just let it hush. It can chatter, but just over there. And instead, I want you to sense into that emotion. And you can even ask it, what is your name? And then we start to get to know it. So does it have a taste? Does it have a color? Does it have a smell? What is its texture? What is its temperature? And where you feel it in your body, is that its only place that it's living? Or is it living somewhere else as well? And does this emotion, how does it move? Left, right? Is it sinuous? Is it staticky? What's its density? Heavy? Light? And so we just want to get to know it, just witness it. So to the point where if you were to describe it to somebody, they could paint it for you. And then as you witness it, as you just watch it, and it begins to disintegrate, because an emotion on its own only has a 90-second lifespan. So as it begins to break apart, as it begins to disintegrate, what emotion is underneath it, or what does it become? It's the next energy that rises. And then you can ask the same questions once again until we get to a place where it's neutral. So when I first started practicing this, I've shared this tons, I know, but when I first started practicing this, I practiced it with other emotions, rage and all the rest. But when the one that I really stuck with was panic. I would have panic attacks upon waking every morning after the brain injury. And so I was like, well, what is this coming from? And so when I first started doing the practice, it was a good 20 minutes and I could be violently ill from it. And so as I kept working with it, and I would just stay in bed and I'd sit with it and I wouldn't get up until it changed. And within 2 weeks, we were down to just a few minutes. And then as I was able to stick with it and just stay with the experience instead of trying to get away from it and trying to ignore it, there's this sense of friendship. So the anxiety would come and I'd be like, oh, there you are. What do you need me to know today? And sometimes I get an answer. I'm uncomfortable with there being nowhere for us to go or anything we have to do. It's a major component of my panic. Who am I now? I had a lot of identities and they all crumbled. So then who am I now? It was a panic point. We've always had identities. Now we don't have one. Now I need to make a new identity. Now my identity is the person with the brain injury. And I was like, I don't want that identity. And so there's this resistance that was coming. So as we breathe into these emotions, we start making friends with them. The other practice that I give you here is really, I say we want to feel it, feel into our body, and just again, it's just a slightly softer practice. So what we would do here is we would close our eyes if we can, and I just want you to start first, like noticing your feet, notice your body. Where are your shoulders? Where's your neck? Your head? Where's your breath? And then we want to just notice that emotion without the story. So just again, And we just name it quietly. This is anxiety. And we just stay with it and we just breathe with anxiety. There's anxiety and we're just sitting with it like a bus stop. It doesn't need to go until its bus comes. It doesn't need to stay. It just is there. It's just the experience of this moment. Can we just let it be? Without labeling it good or bad, without fixing it, without reframing it. Can we just be with that emotion as it sits on the bench beside us until it's ready to leave? I love the practice of asking it questions because it's like awareness is like a flashlight. So we're shining the light on it so it no longer is the monster in the closet. Now we're starting to, it's like no different than the closet during the day. We can see everything that's in it. It's nothing scary anymore. It's just an experience. So, the reflection. So where do I tighten when the emotions show up? So it could be anxiety that you experience. We all have different stress emotions. I'm going to say that again. We all have different stress emotions. So for some people, they might be feeling a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic. For some people, they might be feeling more irritation, anger, frustration. For some of us, we might be feeling more worry, more overwhelm. For some, it might be grief or sorrow of where our world is right now. And then for others, it might be fear, a fear of being seen, a fear that it's safe to be seen. So we chameleon, or we don't want anybody to really know what's coming on inside of us because we don't want to be vulnerable. So these emotions will show up differently in each person. We'll have a different word for the experience that resonates more strongly for us. And so where though in my body do I tighten when I have this stress response? So irritation, frustration, anger, they were way more comfortable for me. Those were ones I knew. They made me feel more powerful and they made me feel less vulnerable and realize that they have no more power than the others. There's some action and movement, but if we don't actually allow that to release, it actually can break down the house just like everything else. And then another reflection question we can use is what changes when I stop fighting it? So when I was going into that one where we sit with the emotion, what changes? What does it disintegrate into? How does it dissipate? Like the sun on a cloud. Can we allow it to just slowly but surely burn it away? Let it dissolve. And then what does presence make possible right now? So if I'm really present, I'm really quiet, what becomes possible? So those are the reflection questions I have for you guys this week as you're playing with this. And if this work resonates for you guys, please, we always do these practices and these work inside the group coaching program called Align Your Life. We meet once a month. The next meeting is going to be on March 1st. It is never too late to join. There's recordings of the last 3 months, as well as you'd still go for another 12. So it's never too late to join the community. I am loving what we're teaching there. Next month in March, we're going to be on the law of choice or of authorship. So understanding that last month was, or this month right now, we're working through the law of presence, and presence is where our power is. And then next month, we're going to be working through the law of authorship. So how we create our own stories and what kind of a story can we write when we're present. And so we kind of flow along. So that will be coming up in March. I would love your guys' feedback. So if there's questions that you have, if there's something you'd like me to talk on, if there's something that's worrying you in society right now and you have questions, there's no judgment from me at all. So please do not hesitate to reach out, ask a question. If you don't feel comfortable putting it onto the comments, then please, you can go ahead and private message me, and I will answer you as soon as possible and put that into these talks. So what is it that you feel is pulling you out of alignment, and how can I best support you in the journey of unlearning and remembering your own perfection? All right. I will make sure that this recording goes up onto YouTube. It'll be up on YouTube for Saturday. So you'll be able to find it there because Facebook only allows our Facebook Lives to hold here in the group for 30 days. And so they'll always be there for you guys as well. And you can always find everything on the YouTube. So there is that there as well. Yes. Oh, perfect. Yes. Go back and listen to the replay on that perfect. Bobby, that's good. All right, you guys, I wish you the most amazing day. And I look forward to chatting with you guys next week. New YouTube went up on Tuesday. And so that is there. New blog should have gone up, I think, yesterday. We were having some technical issues. So we've got the blog up on the website, practicalspiritualismco.com. So if you'd rather read something and then supporting this. And then tomorrow we have the podcast going up. So podcast also went up on Tuesday. I'm starting to put the YouTube in both spots. Same with the podcast. This one is going to be about the layers of consciousness. That is the podcast that'll be going out tomorrow. I'm very excited about that one as well. So tons of stuff there to support your journey. Always happy to be of service. So if there is something that I can do to support you, please don't hesitate to let me know. All right. From my heart to yours, love and light. We'll see you guys next time.